Let's see lymphatic system today. Lymphatic system includes lymphatic vessels, which are carrying the lymph, lymphatic tissue. There are some tissues which has a lot of lymphatic component, and there are lymphoid organs. Lymphoid organs are the organs which has majority in it, the lymphatic tissue or the lymphocytes. Lymphatic vessels, as I mentioned before, they are the one which looks like or which are structurally similar to blood vessels. They carry the lymph from one area to other area. So they collect excess fluid which has escaped into intercellular spaces and is returned to bloodstream. So the excess fluid that is remaining in the intercellular space or the space between the two cells, and that's called the lymph. So the lymph ultimately has to reach into the bloodstream. We know that a cell needs oxygen, nutrients that is given by the artery, and whatever waste materials or carbon dioxide that is produced by the cell is being taken into the blood via the veins. So lymph is a fluid which is seen in between the cell, and that has to be taken into the blood stream. So lymph cannot be taken by the veins. For that, we have specialized lymphatic channels, and they are called lymphatic vessels. Ultimately, the lymph will be drained or will be reaching into the blood. So the lymphatic vessels will open into large veins. And if lymphatic system is absent in the body, that can lead to the collection of fluid in between the cells or in the intercellular space, and that can lead to edema. You might have seen some patients after removing the lymph nodes, or a patient who has carcinoma of the breast, after removal of the breast and the lymph nodes associated with it in cancers, you might have seen that those patients would develop edema of the upper lip. That is because the lymphatic channels are being removed, so that there is no one to take the extra, there is no one to take the intercellular fluid that is located between the cells, so that leads to edema. Similarly, you might have heard about a condition called filariasis, where the lymphatic system is affected by parasites, so that also leads into the accumulation of fluid. Anyway, so this is some important aspects of lymphatic system. So here, an example of lymphatic channel is called lacteals. Lacteals are seen in small intestine. Lacteals are small lymphatic channels which takes the lipid component of the food that you eat. You eat carbohydrate, protein, lipids. Carbohydrate proteins are directly taken into the blood vessels or into the blood, whereas the lipid component of the food cannot be taken into the blood, because the fat component is not soluble in blood. So it needs a lot of procedures to make it soluble in the blood. Just imagine that you're putting a drop of oil into water. What happens? It will not be miscible. It will not mix with the water. Similarly, the fat that you eat, the fatty substance, that cannot be easily absorbed into the blood. until unless it has to go for a procedure for a this is a long procedure where the lipid will be miscible into the blood. Anyway, so it directly absorbed into the lacteals initially in the small intestine, and some lymphatic vessels which are larger in the body. The largest one is thoracic duct, which is seen in the left side of the body, and it drains into the left sided veins. We will see about that later. Right lymphatic duct. Yeah. Lymphatic tissue. What is a lymphatic tissue? It consists of reticular cells, reticular fibers, and lymphocytes. So lymphatic tissue consists of it's a mixture of connective tissue where you can see the reticular cells, reticular fibers, and there are lymphocytes. Lymphocytes, which are mainly of B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes. All these things can be seen. And lymphatic tissue may be diffusely distributed or localized in discrete structure, as in tonsil. So this can be seen sparsely distributed in an organ. For example, you can see collection of lymphocytes in the intestine. That's possible. Similarly, you can see there are some structures where you will see only the lymphocytes which are aggregated, like tonsils. You might have heard about the tonsil, the palatine tonsil, which usually get inflamed during an infection, during a any common cold or anything, any pathogen that tries to goes into the mouth, that can get trapped by the tonsil. The function of tonsil is to trap the pathogen. Anyway, that time you can see that it get inflamed. So tonsil is nothing but it is a collection where you'll see the collection of lymphatic tissue. So I'm telling you what are the areas that you can see the lymphatic tissue in the body. You can also see like lymph nodules, aggregated lymph nodules. These are also seen in some structures like the respiratory tract. You can see lymph nodules. They're a collection of lymphocytes. They are seen in particular layer of the tube. Lymphoid organs. So lymphoid organs, where you will see the lymphatic tissue is predominantly seen in these areas, and they are like lymph node, which are located throughout the body in different areas. Lymph nodes are usually aggregated. They are usually seen in a group in different parts of the body. You might have experienced lymph node. Usually lymph nodes cannot be palpated, but if there's an infection, you can see that the lymph nodes get enlarged and you can feel it. And other organs like spleen, thymus, these all are lymphoid organs. So let's see the first organ here that we are going to talk about, that is tonsil. So this is how the tonsil looks like. You can see that there are bluish colored round structures. They are called the lymphatic nodules, which are the collection of lymphocytes. They are particularly arranged in round shaped structure. You can also see that the tonsil is covered by an epithelium, that is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. This epithelium is seen in the mouth. So tonsil is situated in the oropharynx. So we can see the same epithelium which is covering the palatine tonsil. You can see that sometimes the epithelium moves into the substance of the tonsil, and that's called tonsillar crypts. So these indentation of the epithelium is called tonsillar crypt. So they are aggregate nodules partially encapsulated with connective tissue. So tonsil is covered partially by a connective tissue capsule. The part of the tonsil that is facing the oropharynx, that is not covered by the capsule, but the part of the tonsil that is facing away from the mouth or the oropharynx, that is covered by capsule, or the part of the tonsil that is attached to the pharyngeal wall, that is covered by capsule. It includes palatine tonsil. So tonsils are of different types. The one that we are seeing here is the palatine tonsil, which is situated in the oropharynx and on the sides of the mouth. This you can see if you open your mouth in front of a mirror, and if you use a torch light, you can see the tonsils which are located on either side of the mouth. There are other type of tonsils which are seen in the pharynx, the roof of the pharynx, nasopharynx. That's called pharyngeal tonsil. Pharyngeal tonsil. Lingual tonsils are seen behind or posterior aspect of the tongue. The lingual means tongue, and it consists of diffuse lymphoid tissue in which lymphatic nodules are present. So here, regarding the palatine tonsil, the lymphoid tissue is covered by stratified squamous epithelium, which we already saw, which continues with that of mouth and the pharynx. Because the location of tonsil is in this area, mouth and pharynx, that area, so the epithelium is going to cover. The same epithelium of the mouth and the pharynx is going to cover the tonsil. Epithelium extends into the substance of the tonsil in the form of a several tonsillar crypt. So these invaginations are called the crypts. Now this is structure of lymph node. Lymph nodes usually has two lymphatic channels which are attached to it. The one which is coming into the lymph node called as afferent A, afferent. The one which is leaving the lymph node are called efferent E. So there are efferent lymphatic vessel, which is usually singular, or it is usually singular in number, whereas afferent lymphatic vessels can be many. So that means on one side of the lymph node, afferent vessels are attached, which carries the lymph from different areas of the body, and they pour the lymph into the lymph node. Lymph node is a collection of lymphoid follicles, as we can see here. They are the lymphocytes, and after that, the lymph will be flowing from the lymph node through the efferent lymphatic vessel. It can go to another group of lymph nodes, or it can drain into a lymphatic duct. So anyway, our concern is the lymph node. How is the structure of lymph node? So lymph node is acting like, something like a guard, which monitor the lymph, whether the lymph has some pathogens or it is clear without pathogen. So that is what has been monitored by the lymph node. If there is some pathogen, that will be attacked by the lymphocytes which are located in the lymph node. That leads to over functioning of the lymph node. That leads to enlargement of lymph node, and that's called lymphadenopathy. Lymphadenopathy, which is the swelling of the lymph nodes. Anyway, let's see about the lymph node. It is encapsulated, it is covered by the capsule. Connective tissue component is called the capsule. Bean-shaped lymphatic tissue located in pathway of lymphatic vessels. So they are located in the pathway of lymphatic vessels. So lymphatic vessels, for example, there are lymphatic vessels in the hand. there are lymphatic vessels in the hand that starts from the hand that goes into the forearm, arm, axilla. Now there are lymph nodes which are located in the cubital fossa in the axilla region. So these lymphatic channels, they are connected to the lymph node. So lymphatic channels carry the lymph from the hand region that reaches the lymph node of cubital fossa, or exactly it's not cubital fossa, it is called the supratrochlear group of lymph nodes which are located in the elbow region. Anyway, though these lymph nodes monitor the lymph which is flowing into these lymph nodes, then from there, after monitoring, the lymph will pass through the lymphatic channel into the next group of lymph node, that is in the axillary group of lymph nodes, or lymph nodes located in the axilla. Now from there will be again a monitoring by these lymph nodes. From there, it will be flowing into another group of lymph nodes. So this is what is going to happen. You can say that the lymph is monitored several times by the lymph node. The lymph node is surrounded by a capsule which sends septa into the substance. So the capsule that is surrounding the lymph node sends its connective tissue component into the substance of the lymph node. And that divides the lymph node into different lobes. Many afferent vessels enter to the node from its convex surface. So on the convex surface, so one surface is convex, other surface is concave. In this picture, you are not able to see very clearly, but just think of a bean, how it looks. So on the outer surface of it, there are afferent vessels that are opening. So one or two efferent vessels may leave from the other side. I said singular, so it can be one or two. So lymph node is divided into outer cortex. So the bluish area that we can see here on the periphery, that's called cortex. So this cortex area consists of round shaped arrangement of lymphocytes called lymphatic nodules. Whereas towards the interior, the lightish area, the light colored area is the medulla, which is composed of medullary cords. The lymphocytes are arranged in linear fashions and they are called the medullary cords. This is medullary cord, another medullary cord. Between the medullary cords, there are some space, some small space here, and they are called medullary sinuses. So medullary cords and sinuses are seen in the medulla. Now, what's the function of it? Already I mentioned it is a site of lymphocytes and plasma cell production. Now, suppose the lymph that is carried into the lymph node, if it has some pathogen, the lymphocytes will get activated. There are B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. B lymphocytes, if it is activated, that will be changing into another type of cells called plasma cells. Plasma cells produces antibodies. And antibodies can act against the pathogen. So it removes the foreign particles and bacteria from the blood. Another structure that is again a lymphatic organ, that's spleen. Spleen is located in the abdomen, posterior to the stomach on the left side. It is the largest lymphatic organ. What we can see here is a microscopic picture of spleen, which also has a capsule which is surrounding the spleen. Let's see in detail. So has a capsule which is surrounding the spleen, but that goes into the spleen, dividing the spleen into different lobes. You cannot see it's exactly dividing into lobes, but you can see that it is sending the septa into the spleen. Now, the whole of the spleen can be divided into two areas, white pulp and red pulp. Again, we can see the collection of lymphatic follicles in the spleen. But here, when you look at the lymphatic follicle in the spleen, we can see an artery inside the lymphatic follicle, which is not seen in any other lymphatic organ. So this artery is called central artery. So how it is formed? So here in the spleen is supplied by splenic artery. Splenic artery enters the spleen that divides into smaller and smaller branches. So here the lymphocytes are usually surrounding or surrounds the artery, So the splenic artery divides into smaller and smaller branches. So you can see that the lymphocytes are going to aggregate along the branches of artery. So that is why when we take a section, you can see here the artery is present, and surrounding that we can see the lymphatic nodule. So the part of the spleen which is filled with, or which is enriched with this lymphatic nodule, is called white pulp. So all of this area are called white pulp. Now, as a result, it is in the form of cord-like aggregations of lymphocytes that follow the branching pattern of arterioles. So since the lymphocytes are surrounding the arteriole, you can see as the arterioles, arteries divide and divide, it is the lymphatic follicles are also going to get divide and divide. And ultimately, this artery reaches in an area where we can see that the lymphocytes are arranged like cords and in between some space. So these are called splenic cords. Splenic cords. So these are the different lymphocytes which are arranged in a cord-like fashion where the arteries will pour the blood into it. Those areas are called red pulp, which is like a sponge. So this, if you consider the sponge, the material that is consisting of the sponge is the splenic cord. The spaces between there in that, those are the sinuses. Those are the sinuses. So if you put the sponge into water, or if you pour water into the sponge, you will see that the spaces will be filled with water. So here you can see that this area will be the area between the sponge. Sponge represents the splenic cords, which are the lymphocytes. So in between that, there are some spaces. So those areas are filled with blood. And that area is called red pulp. It is permeated by spaces lined by reticular cells. Here we will see a lot of reticular cells and the lymphocytes. The interval between the spaces are filled by B lymphocytes as well as T lymphocytes, macrophages, blood cells. These cells appear to be arranged as cords called splenic cords of Billroth. These are splenic cords of Billroth. Functions. It is a reservoir of the blood. So blood can be collected in the spleen and it filters the blood. So the arterioles in the spleen are very small, very tiny. We know that the RBCs, red blood cells, usually have the lifespan of 120 days. So suppose an old RBC, which is older than 120 days, if it enters into the spleen, since the splenic arterioles are very small, tiny, they're very tiny in such a way that it just allows RBCs to pass through. I remember the diameter of the RBC is around 7.2 micrometer. So the size of the arterioles is almost 7 micrometer or 7.1 micrometer. So it just allows the RBCs to pass through. So the RBCs have to squeeze through these arterioles. So this squeezing capacity, the capacity to squeeze, that has been lost in older RBCs. So when the older RBCs, when I say older, it is more than 120 days. So when it passes through these arterioles, these RBCs ruptures and they die off. So spleen is actually filtering the blood. So the older RBCs are removed, the site where aged blood cells are destroyed. So spleen is the area or the organ where the older RBCs are destroyed. Now the next structure that is related to the lymphatic system is thymus. Thymus is located just in front of the heart, extend into the neck region. It's a primary lymphatic organ. So when you consider the lymphatic organ, there are two types of lymphatic organ: primary lymphatic organ and secondary lymphatic organ. Primary lymphatic organs are the organs where the lymphocytes are produced. Secondary lymphatic organs are the lymphatic organs where the lymphocytes are matured. So here there are two primary lymphatic organs, bone marrow and thymus. Now bone marrow produces B lymphocytes, thymus produces T lymphocytes. So that's the difference. In infants and child, thymus is well developed, whereas in adult, when you attain the puberty, the thymus is slowly replacing by fibrous connective tissue. And it is situated behind the sternum, and it's made of two lobes. There are two lobes for the thymus, right and left lobes. And each lobe has a connective tissue capsule which is covering it. That we can see here, the connective tissue component. Connective tissue septa passing inwards from capsule incompletely subdivide the lobe into large number of lobules. Now we can see that the capsule which is covering the thymus sends septa and it divides into different lobes. So this is a lobe that we can see. This is one lobe, another lobe, another lobe. Now the connective tissue tries to divide this lobe into lobules. It is trying to divide this lobe into lobules. You can see that connective tissue septa is entering into it, but it is not able to divide the thymus into lobules. So what we can see here are the incomplete trabeculae. It is not able to divide the lobe into lobules. So because of this incomplete trabeculae, we can see that when we consider one lobe, we can say that this is the cortex of this lobe, and this is the medulla of the lobe. So medulla is continuous, whereas cortex is separate. This is one cortex, another cortex, because you can see the connective tissue is entering here. So this is one cortex, but the connective tissue is not able to divide the medulla. So medulla is continuous, whereas cortex is separate. This is cortex, 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 whereas this is a medulla. So there are large number of lobules having different cortex, but sharing the same medulla. Each lobules contain cortex and medulla, as you can see here, cortex and medulla. But here, cortex is separate, but medulla is continuous with the next lobule. Here we have cortex of this lobule. This is the cortex of next lobule, but the medulla part is continuous. Medulla of this lobule is continuous with medulla of this lobule. Medulla of this lobule is continuous with medulla of this lobule. Now, cortex has cluster of lymphocytes. They are called thymocytes. So the lymphocytes that we can see here, all these bluish dots are the lymphocytes. They are called thymocytes. Medulla also has thymocytes, but less densely packed, as we can see, lightly packed here, and contains Hessel's corpuscles. Hessel's corpuscles can be seen here as red dots. They are the degenerated reticuloepithelial cells, which are the supporting cells of thymus. It has a lot of functions, but it is getting degenerated, and they can be seen in the medulla as Hessel's corpuscles. Hessel's corpuscles are one of the important structure that can be seen in the thymus, which is not seen in any other lymphatic organ. So Hessel's corpuscles is a feature of thymus. We have seen the spleen, the central arteriole, which is seen inside the lymphatic follicle, is a feature of spleen. Now here the main feature is Hessel's corpuscle.